spine-tingling moments. Impossible not to feel something in that moment. We'll never forget this.
Never forget it. And I think as John Allen, who is here with us, in his first appearance there, he hit it out of the park, speaking in first Italian as the new Bishop of Rome, and then in Spanish. He speaks many other languages, but his message, I think, has great resonance. Right, John?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about what he was able to pack into that address, I mean, there was a great homage to Pope Francis that ran through it, but also a great nod to his Augustinian roots. And, you know, as we've been talking about him and his background, we haven't really hit much on the fact that he was twice a leader of his own Augustinian order. He was the superior in Peru, and then he was the superior of the worldwide Augustinian order. So his background as a missionary isn't just South America, it's really the whole world, because the Augustinian order is present straight across the planet. And so he has this sensibility. When he talks about God's love is for everyone, this is a man who, in his own life experience, has embraced that universality. You know, I don't think when Pope Leo XIV, and I'm sorry, I'm still having a hard time getting to calling him Prevost, when Pope Leo XIV, I don't think when he looks at someone, he sees nationality. I don't think he sees the things that divide. I think he sees the common humanity. And I think that's what we heard in his address tonight. I think that's what we'll see from him as Pope.
And Monsignor, you have a new Holy Father. You've had a little bit to let it sink in.
Absolutely. It's a moment that is mind-shattering, really, for us, simply because I truly believe, as John was saying, this is a Pope with a shepherd's heart. He's a pastor. And I really believe the Cardinal saw that. He's a man who lived with the people. You know, Pope Francis always used to speak about staying with the smell of the sheep. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see Pope Leo XIV walk over this evening to the Augustinian house next to us to greet his brothers whom he lived with.
This pastoral approach, as you are mentioning, and I think him as a missionary, right? A parish priest, a teacher, all of those things that we've been talking about, his qualifications, no doubt. And certainly, but one thing that people are talking about and starting to talk about, because this is an unconventional choice, the American, as we were all very surprised. He was on our list of the Popefuls. We've done the research, but it is an unconventional choice. But one of the things that is coming up in the discussion is certainly the Vatican's financial problems. How much do you think that was a factor? I mean, it was in the huge Wall Street Journal investigation just yesterday about this. How much, Delia, do you think this was a factor?
Well, I think it was. I think it was because as head of an order, even, he would have had to have had some experience with financial dealings. And even if he doesn't personally have it, I think they might have looked to an American to be the presence, to make the tough decisions and to be on top of the issue. Because the problem with the Vatican finances is you have to kind of pull in all the threads and really keep the books straight. And so I think that was a large part of why they went towards an American. And then, of course, the fact that he has the Peruvian pastoral experience, the combination is just perfect for those kind of issues.